Finding love over 50 can be a real challenge. This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is Second Act TV host Silke Schwarzkopf. It all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California and Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, my special guest today is a friend of the show, Silke Schwarzkopf. Let me tell you a little bit about her. We're going to talk about dating and relationship challenges for people over 50 with one of the thought leaders and experts. Now, Silke hosts a very popular YouTube show, Second Act TV, where she's interviewed numbers and numbers of guests who are really thought leaders in the areas of relationship, dating, and everything else for the over 50 crowd, which is growing and growing and growing. So I'm always thrilled when Silke comes back to Guys Radio. As you may know, I'm a frequent guest on Silke's show, so it's nice that she's been kind enough to return the favor and grace us with her presence here. And we're going to get into some of the issues that the over 50 crowd faces when it comes to dating and relationships. So welcome back to Guys Radio, my friend Silke Schwarzkopf.
Thank you, Robert. It's always great talking with you. And yes, you are a frequent guest, and Robert's actually one of my most popular guests. So we love our conversations.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to have another good one today because it's a great topic. Like people over 50, whether they're, they've had experience. So whether they're getting back into the dating pool, if you will, if they've had just a long-term relationships or they're divorced or whatever it is, or they're widowed, or there's so many different variables, if you will, for the over 50 crowd. And you've talked to so many different people from a big micro standpoint. What has been the number one takeaway you've gotten from all these thought leaders and experts about dating and relationships over 50?
Well, you've hit on some of the points, which is that there's so many of us. I think the stats are 1 in 3 over 50 are single. So it's just
wow.
It's huge for a variety of reasons. And I guess the takeaway, the biggest challenge has been maintaining a positive mindset that you can start over again, that you will find somebody else. There's some hopelessness in that area. And it really all comes back down to the experiences we've had, why we're single, and how we've processed that. So mindset, I think, is one of the biggest overarching, if you will, challenges.
That makes perfect sense. There's a relationship. It's always, I find it interesting that, I'm the guy's guy, if you will, and I can weigh in on men, but I can't really tell women. I can tell them about men, but I can't tell men about women, and except from my own personal experience. It's not, and I can't advise women about, I can advise women about men, but I'm not an expert on women as per women, if you know what I mean. So
sure, I know exactly. That's why I have you on my show, because I don't want to speak for men.
Exactly, and I can't speak for women. And some of the guys, some of the thought leaders out there attempt to do that, and I always like them. And a lot of women too also try to speak for, this is what guys are, here's what they want, here's who they are. And if you're not a guy, it's hard for you to really do that from an authentic position. Not that they don't have great insights, but the real, you got to be real about it. And that is, women know women and men know men better than we know each other. And that's one of the challenges we face. So what has been the primary theme and challenges for women as told to you by women dating and relationship experts and thought leaders?
Probably, the biggest, if I have to name one, is confidence. Again, doesn't apply to everybody. Some women over 50 are extremely confident. But if you haven't been on the dating scene in a while, and now 25 years later, as was in my case, started dating again, things have changed. I mean, the world is a different world. Dating is completely different. And depending on the people, the men that you meet, where they are in that process, did they just start again, or have they already been on the scene for about 10 years or so and have adapted to this new culture, the online culture? Confidence will definitely take a bite out of you. Some of it can be very funny, as it was in my case, but yeah, a real challenge.
Let me say the same question. I ask you the same thing about men. What do the male experts tell you about what's kind of the big challenges for guys out there? Because a lot of people think that, oh, the single men out there, maybe they've been in a marriage or relationship for a long time, and they get back out there and they chase around younger women, and it's a lot easier than for the ladies. But that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, what I hear, from men is that nothing has changed in terms of what it's like to put yourself out there and open yourself up to rejection when you're the one that always has to ask people out. That's one thing that a lot of the experts are trying to change, that especially at our age, that women, we can be a little bit more forward and or at least give men a hint. It's okay to approach us. But I hear that it's just really difficult to keep linking, or not linking, winking is what I'm trying to say, like on Match or swiping, or and then you don't get a response, or when you do, yeah, they're nervous. They're still nervous about those first meetings.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting now because from what I've heard, the younger women, are a little more aggressive and a little more overt, and it's more accepted, if you will,
Yes.
from a cultural standpoint, to make the first move.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for the boomer guys and for the boomer ladies, it's usually more traditional in that the guy sets something up, makes the first plan, asks the lady out. Is that what you hear more
Oh,
than
absolutely.
that hasn't changed, right?
It's a debate and a challenge, because we're of that generation. We went through the feminist movement, both sides, men and women, and what that has meant to relationships and just male female interaction. So bringing that to relationships, perhaps what we experience in the workplace now to relationships, we don't know, are we too forward? Does this mean, do we do this with everybody, or men, is a woman even going to accept, or is she going to take it wrong, what my intentions are? There's so much more overthinking now that, yeah, it's perhaps more of a challenge to us and the younger people, as you say. Culturally, that's acceptable, where we're still, groveling with that problem or issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Guys Radio. My special guest is host of Second Act TV and my buddy Silke Schwarzkopf. We're talking about all the challenges that folks over 50 have when it comes to dating and relationships. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the elephant that never leaves the room, and that is sex, sex. What do you hear from your thought leaders about the shifting role of sex in a relationship for the ladies and also for the guys?
Well, again, we're speaking in generalities, of course.
Sure.
But one of the interesting discussions I've had with some of our, thought leaders, if you will, is that women really don't lose their sex drive. Yeah, it may go up and down and here and there, and we go through the hormonal years and all that stuff. But one of the main reasons, in this, I'll probably, get some opposition to this, but one of the main reasons women lose interest in sex is because they lose interest in their husband or the person that they're with. They're not being treated the way they want to be treated. It has nothing to do with wanting great sex. So when you're back on the dating scene, now you're meeting someone, you're getting attention, you're getting affection, the spark starts firing again. Sex is better after 50, speaking for me, than it ever has been. So that is to me, it was a huge awakening. To a lot of people, when I have these discussions, as you know, we have them very openly on Second Act TV, is, yeah, sex can be much better, and women really don't lose interest. Now, again, I'm not speaking for all women, and maybe it's not quite as important. And then the other side to that is sexual dysfunction issues that we now have that we didn't have back then. How do you deal with those? And confidence is a big thing there as well. Does that make sense?
Sure. Let's unpack that a little bit. So why can sex be better for those ladies over 50? Is it because they're just less inhibited at that point? They're like, what the hell, let's just do it? Or what is really the driver of that, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, you really kind of you do lose some inhibitions, even if there's body challenges, and that's another topic we cover. Well, one, you can't get pregnant. I mean, you
Mhm,
can actually that's a big worry. You're not trying to get pregnant. You're not doing it to procreate. You're truly doing it for pleasure.
mhm.
And the older men now, it's not the wang bang, thank you, ma'am, after 30 seconds, it's over, is just because we're older and we have older bodies, we have to take more time. So, the whole foreplay or just being affectionate, maybe not even, focusing on intercourse becomes a lot more enjoyable. It becomes a lot more sensual.
Mhm. It sounds like the guys need to, the sex is a mental game, and the men need to speak the love language, and then they'll get the physical payoff instead of just expecting it there because, okay, I'm married or I'm in a long-term relationship. We do it when I want or whatever.
Yeah.
Something entitlement, if you will, that you really have to continue for men. It sounds like guys have to keep working for it.
Well, we both do. I mean,
Mhm.
you both need to keep that spark, or remember, what were we attracted to each other, or why were we attracted to each other in the first place? And once you lose that, as you do in many long-term relationships, unless you really, consciously think about that, or quote, work on your relationship, resentment builds up, and that's a huge, the huge killer of relationships, and it's hard to get past that. So now when you're back on, you're meeting new people, all of a sudden it's like, wow, what happened to her, what happened to him, why couldn't we have had this together? And maybe you could, maybe you couldn't.
Mhm.
But yeah, big another big challenge of a long-term relationship.
It seems like ED is an issue, not just for older guys, and they may because of prescription drugs
Mhm,
or alcohol or depression or whatever. It's a lot of it's mental also, but also for young guys. So
mhm.
what do women think of guys using the little blue pill and things like that to get things going? Do they care? Do they want to know? Is it just like, hey, what's the payoff? And that's what matters. From what you've heard from your experts.
That's a really great question. And that comes down to, again, speaking generalities, women need to understand that it's not their fault. Very seldom if is a woman's fault if a man has performance issues. However, we take it personally, like he's
Mhm,
not attracted to me, is it, and then the men is like, oh, what's she gonna think if I can't keep it up or get it
mhm,
up?
mhm.
And what we're doing is we're making up stories in our head that we're giving value to and not talking about it. And I'm sitting here talking like, well, of course, this is what I do. And it wouldn't, no, those conversations are difficult, very difficult, no matter how open minded you are. Once you're with that special person that you want to impress, yeah, the communication of that becomes very difficult and can ruin what might be, a potentially budding
Yeah.
romance.
It's like becomes a self-esteem thing from both sides because the woman
Mhm.
thinks, oh, he's not performing because he's not attracted to me. And the
Right.
guy's thinking, oh, she's going to think I'm less of a man unless I
Mhm.
rely on the meds or whatever I need to get things rolling. So I think compassion and empathy and people just should just say, okay, let's just whatever we need to do to enjoy each other. Let's go there. But that's just my own opinion. Um,
You're
what
right.
what does you think that women over 50 don't seem to understand about men still after all the years of dating and knowing guys? What do you think they still get wrong about guys from what you've heard from the male experts?
Well, that also comes down, I think, to communication, that how differently we communicate. But one of the big things that popped right in my head when you said that, and that you hear from the male experts, is appreciation. That men really want to be appreciated for what they do. They don't want to be nagged or criticized. And somehow, even if we don't mean it that way, it comes across somehow. And I don't know if that's our generation or not, but we tend to quickly jump into the mommy role, or I can do things better role. And we don't understand that men really do, and a lot of experts have said this, they want to make us happy, they want to give to us, and they want to be our hero.
Mhm.
And we've just, I don't know, we've, I don't know if it's a feminist movement, what it is, but we don't let men be men in many cases.
That's a bold, provocative statement, and I don't disagree with you. And I think the guys, we have to take that. And I've been in that position of like, I know, because like, listen, women want to make the relationship better. So if they're suggesting something, it's not, the intention is not nagging. It's how do we make this thing better? And
Mhm.
guys can take it as, oh no, not again. And I think we have to both kind of just realize, okay, where is the other person coming from, and see what we can do with that. So I think women need some work to do, and like let him do this. Maybe it's not exactly the way I do it, but let him do
Mhm.
it. We'll see what happens. And men have to not be so sensitive about, oh no, here she comes again. Mommy dearest, here, like stop, please. And it's I think a lot of guys, and it's even with the discussions when we're having a disagreement or something, and guys will say, well, this is what I think, and I disagree, and that's it. And then the women many times will want to keep discussing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with men, they don't know what else to say. And that becomes frustrating for the man and also for the
Yeah.
female. So it's again, once again, it comes down to communications. So let me flip that question over and say, what is it that you hear from the male experts that men don't really understand about women, or from the female experts,
Female
what do they
experts.
think? Yeah, female
Yeah.
experts.
I,
What
I
don't
think
men understand about them?
I think one, and we've had some interesting conversations about that, is that men don't understand the importance of non-sexual touch. That comes down to just being affectionate and that sort of thing. That if you just small little acts of maybe touching your hand or
Mhm.
just walking up for no reason, give you a little kiss on the cheek, pat on the back or the butt, whatever you want, stuff like that is just so important for women. And it also speaks to being heard. uh, One of our, well, the John Gray, who both of us have interviewed
Sure.
him several times, he has a great example that if a man wants to get a woman's attention and just have her just get whatever he wants from the woman, it's just tell me more. When you're talking, when she's venting or doing so,
Mhm.
this happened to me today, and then she said that, and he says, tell me more.
Mhm.
All of a sudden goes, wow, he's listening. We talk about that a lot, that men don't listen. And we talk about that a lot because a lot of them don't.
That's
So
true.
to answer your question, I think that still remains a big issue.
I think part of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that men are problem solving in
Mhm.
terms of their mentality. So when they hear something, they're like, hang on, let's try this, let's try that. And it's not really necessary to solve everything. A lot of times a woman wants to be able to communicate and talk about it and vent a little bit, whatever, and needs somebody to listen.
Yeah.
Whereas a guy wants to, well, I can just solve that problem for you. And that's not really solving the problem for them.
No.
Is that
And
accurate?
and in turn, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but in
Sure.
turn, women need to learn that men aren't their girlfriends. You can't
It's a
expect
great
your man
point.
to be your girlfriend. Even if you say that you want to have that kind of relate, you want this emotional man, a lot of times you really don't. So yeah, I mean, all these things go both ways, definitely go both ways. And I know on Second Act tried to keep it that way because I think that's the only way to really fix it, if you will.
Mhm.
If we understand each other's shortcomings and the good stuff.
Okay. My special guest, my buddy Silke Schwarzkopf, host of Second Act TV, the popular YouTube show for the folks over 50. That's the Second Act. So, after everything you've heard from all the relationship experts, what do women over 50 want from a partner?
I think that answer is relatively simple. You want somebody who who you feel good with, who is loyal, honest, a great companion, funny. Humor is a big thing. People discount how important it is to be able to laugh. So that, I don't think that's changed really among any age. Well, maybe when the younger ones, you don't really consciously think about it like that. That
Mhm.
the companionship is so important, that you have somebody who wants to spend time with you and who you want to spend time with, because
Mm.
ultimately that's what it all comes down to.
How about for the guys?
I think it's the same. I think that that becomes more of a human want than necessarily a male female. And I hear that from more and more men too, is that they really do value being able to just relax, kick back, have things in common, of course, share common interests, and just be comfortable. Just be comfortable with the person that you love.
So do you think, Silke, last question, that people over 50, do they change? Have they changed? Can they change? And do they need to change in terms of how they view and behave in their relationships and even in dating? Or are they
Great.
just stuck?
Great. No, it's a great question. And I think the answer is yes to all. Some people can, some people can't. And that becomes really maybe one of the biggest challenges. It's a great way to end that. If you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, if you do not have any accountability to what your position was, or what you did in a relationship that didn't work, if you always blaming it on somebody else, and we get that a lot in the comments, you hear right away, well, it's not somebody I would even want to meet. It's when it's all men are this, all women are that, all this, all that. These are people who have never learned from their experiences and haven't grown. So in that sense, yeah, it's not that necessarily that you change, but you adapt in a way that you don't no longer make the same mistake over and over and over.
Great advice. Okay, let's wrap it on that, because I think you nailed it. So once again, my buddy Silke Schwarzkopf, host of Second Act TV, popular YouTube show. Check it out. You might even see me on there. Thank you so much for being back on Guys Radio. Silke, great advice, great thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. I always love being here.
If you enjoy the content and guests I bring you each and every week on Guys Radio and TV, please support us by subscribing to our channels. Thank you.